And either they're going to straighten their act out in the terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize. And
the worst part about having big balls is that they're easy to kick. Just ask this guy, Edward Korestein, affectionately called Big Balls by Elon Musk for, I'm sure, perfectly appropriate workplace reasons. His life outside the workplace, however, isn't going too well. It seems like Big Balls over here got a little bit too confident around the wrong group of people.
Buffalo soldier in the heart of America.
Go ahead and subscribe to Really American, and let's just jump right into it. So the official story from Elon Musk and Donald Trump, the two least credible people besides Judas and Brutus, is that Edward stepped in to save a woman from a gang of violent black thugs and was brutally beaten for his heroism. Now, there are some things that don't quite add up, but I'll let you hear it from hear it from the horse's mouth.
by the way, I have to say that somebody from DOGE was very badly hurt last night. You saw that. A young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C. And either they're going to straighten their act out in the terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run.
Here's the official statement from Trump posted on his social media. He also attached a photo of Edward sitting on the floor after getting his shit rocked. Here's the photo. It's relatively graphic, so it's probably mostly blurred right now, but he's clearly bleeding from his face or nose area. He's got what looks to be a polo draped over his shoulder and white pants that have unfortunately been ruined. What a shame. Before you feel bad, remember, this is the guy who is in charge of ruining the lives of thousands of government employees and is currently still in charge over at the Social Security Administration. This guy is personally responsible for canceling thousands, maybe millions of dollars in foreign aid, assistance programs, and important scientific research. I cannot stress this deeply enough. Fuck Edward Korestein. Mind you, this Edward guy is the grandson of a KGB double agent who was executed by the Soviets, and his father is the CEO of a company called Lesser Evil, a snack company that was sued for lying about being a healthy alternative. So he doesn't exactly come from the most trustworthy stock here. But here's Trump's statement and his threat to Washington, D.C. Crime in Washington, D.C. is totally out of control. Local youths, in quotes, and gang members, some only 14, 15, and 16 years old, are randomly attacking, mugging, maiming, and shooting innocent citizens, at the same time knowing that they will almost immediately be released. They are not afraid of law enforcement because they know nothing ever happens to them, but it's going to happen now. The law in D.C. must be changed to prosecute these minors as adults and lock them up for a long time, starting at age 14. The most recent victim was beaten mercilessly by local thugs. Washington, D.C. must be safe, clean, and beautiful for all Americans, and importantly, for the world to see. If D.C. doesn't get its act together and quickly, we will have no choice but to take federal control of the city. Suddenly, these people love big government and run this city how it should be run, and put criminals on notice that they're not going to get away with it anymore. Perhaps it should have been done a long time ago. Then this incredible young man, Big Balls, he didn't say Big Balls, and so many others would not have had to go through the horrors of violent crime. If this continues, I'm going to exert my powers and federalize, all caps, this city. There's a lot to debunk here when it comes to his claims about crime in Washington, D.C. Trump has had his eyes on taking over D.C. since his first term, so it's really just a convenient excuse. He doesn't give two shits about this kid. But before we debunk that a little bit, let's look at Elon Musk's claims about what happened. He and Big Balls are good friends, probably because his own were botched in a cosmetic surgery, or so I hear. But according to Elon Musk, this is what happened to young Edward. A few days ago, a gang of about a dozen young men tried to assault a woman in her car at night in D.C. A DOGE team member saw what was happening, ran to defend her, and was severely beaten to the point of concussion, but he saved her. It is time to federalize D.C. Okay, so I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'm not buying this at all. Something is fishy about this account of what happened. Now, I'm not denying the guy got beat up. Clearly he did. But there's a couple of facts here that don't quite line up to what the police are saying. Elon says that a gang of about a dozen young men were harassing a woman in her car. Edward tried to save this woman, got beat up in the process, but ended up saving the day. But here is what the police report says really happens from this incident. I'll read it to you, and you let me know if you see any discrepancies from Elon's story here. On Sunday, August 3rd at approximately 3 a.m., the suspects approached the victims who were standing next to their vehicle in the 1400 block of Swan Street Northwest. The suspects demanded the victim's vehicle, then assaulted one of the victims. During the assault, an MPD cruiser pulled into the block, causing the suspects to flee. Two of the suspects were apprehended by on-scene officers. One of the victims was treated by the D.C. Fire and EMS for injuries sustained in the assault. A 15-year-old juvenile male and a 15-year-old juvenile female were arrested and charged with unarmed carjacking. So the police are saying that the victims were already standing next to their car together, both of them together. And then they were approached by a group of juveniles who were of mixed gender because a 15-year-old male and a 15-year-old female were the ones who were arrested, and then it was the cruiser that pulled onto the block that made the suspects run away. So what it sounds like to me is that this is either a group of teenagers that really did try to carjack him and somebody else, or this was a fight that the cops broke up. What I think happened, and this part is just wild speculation here, okay? I think he was on a date, which is why he was wearing those white pants. And he got a little bit too confident since it's 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, aka late Saturday night. I think he was drunk, got a little too confident, started talking, and got rocked. I mean, this block looks like this. There's a damn paper source right here. If you know anything about paper sources, they're not exactly in the kinds of places that are riddled with crime. It's a stationery store. But this place is riddled with bars. There's one right here, there's one right here, and this whole thing happened right here. Now, speculation time over, what is clearly true is that Trump is using this as an opportunity to finally get what he's always wanted: control over his own little city. A month into his presidency, so this is back in February, he was already making calls to take over the governance of Washington, D.C., claiming that the local government was not doing the job on crime and homelessness. But unfortunately for Trump, that narrative just doesn't have legs. It's not true that crime is on the rise, especially violent crime in D.C., which is at a 30-year low, with robberies down 39% and armed carjackings down 53%. According to the Metropolitan Police Department of D.C., from Jan 2024 to Jan 2025, every single crime category was down. Motor vehicle theft was down 25%. Even Judge Jeanine Pirro, the unfortunately newly named prosecutor for D.C., is going against Trump's narrative here. As recently as today, she was at a national night out event today, apparently, where she said this: "Crime is going down in D.C. It's going down because of you, because you, as parents, teach your kids respect, because of law enforcement who make sure that they follow cases until they're solved, and because of our partners." DC police report that as of Tuesday, overall crime is down 7% and violent crime is down 26% compared to this date last year. So being roughly 8 months into 2025, it looks like 2025 is better than 2024, which, as we just talked about, was a great year for crime reduction. There is no crime wave in DC. In fact, the biggest criminal in the area since January of this year is probably the 34-time convicted felon that we currently have in charge of the nuclear codes. We'll be sure to keep you updated on this case in the event of more evidence or details emerging on exactly what happened. But until then, be sure to subscribe to Really American so you can know the news that MAGA doesn't want you to. I'm Tony Hinderman, and I'll catch you next time.